You want to know what products could save your life and which ones will get you killed? I'll tell you exactly which is which. In our last investigation, we exposed how Made in USA became a hollow stamp on Chinese garbage, how Remington's quality control went to hell, how Colt became just a name on imported parts. Thousands of you, veterans, LEO preppers, flooded the comments asking, if the legendary brand sold out, what's left that I can trust my life to? Here's your answer. The Tactical Truth List. 5 specific brands still building duty-grade equipment when everyone else is building range toys. Not cheap, not pretty, no Bluetooth, no shot counters. But they have one thing modern tactical gear will never have. They're built to run when the SHTF, not fail when you need them most. First on the list? An optic that doesn't use batteries or electronics. Try G-Con A COG, fiber optic and tritium dual illumination, no circuit boards to corrode. But no buttons to fill with dirt. While your buddy's swapping batteries in his Chinese red dot at 2 a.m. during contact, your ACOG will still be running. It cannot die. Why don't they want you to know? Because when gear fails, you die. And they'd rather sell you 5 replacements than one piece that lasts forever. Here's what could save your life. Number 1 on the list, the optic that refuses to die. Walk into any gun store today, and you'll see walls of red dots and variable scopes that look like they belong on a spaceship. They've got push-button brightness controls, motion sensors that auto-wake when you touch the gun, and reticles with 17 different illumination settings. They're designed to look tactical on the showroom pegboard, but inside? Cheap circuit boards from Southeast Asia, coin cell batteries that die in the cold, and LED emitters that flicker out after moderate recoil. If you want an optic that'll still be zeroed after you've dragged it through mud, dropped it off a roof, and left it in a vehicle for 3 Montana winters, you need to ignore all of them. You need to buy a Trigicon ACOG, specifically the TA31 or TA02 models with the fiber optic/tritium dual illumination system. The ACOG is different because it doesn't rely on batteries or electronics. There's no circuit board to corrode, no push buttons to fill with dirt. The reticle is illuminated by a fiber optic cable during the day that collects ambient light, and by a tritium vial at night that glows for 15 years without any power source. It's an analog solution in a digital world. You cannot turn it off, and you cannot kill it. The housing is forged aluminum, not injection molded polymer. The glass is multi-coated and sealed with a forge-welded body, not glued together like budget optics. Critics will say it's heavy. They'll say the eye relief is unforgiving, and the reticle is fixed at 4 times magnification instead of adjustable. They're right. But while your buddy is swapping batteries in his Chinese red dot for the 3rd time this deployment, or worse, staring at a dead screen when rounds start coming downrange at 2 a.m., your ACOG will still be running. It's a combat instrument in a world of range toys. Number 2, the blade that means business. If you carry a knife for anything beyond opening Amazon boxes, you've probably noticed that most modern tactical knives are built with the same disposable mindset as everything else. They've got assisted opening mechanisms that jam with pocket lint. They've got cheap Pakistani or Chinese stainless steel that won't hold an edge past the first hard use. And when the pivot screw strips out or the lock mechanism fails, you throw the whole knife away because replacement parts don't exist. There's one exception. EC knives. I'm not talking about their folders. I'm talking about their fixed blade lineup, specifically the ESEE4, ESEE5, and ESEE6 models. ESEE is different because they don't build collector pieces. They build working tools for people whose lives depend on having a blade that won't fail. Every knife is laser cut from a single piece of 1095 carbon steel, not layered, not laminated, not powder-coated mystery metal. Just high-carbon American steel with a flat grind and a micarta handle that won't crack, slip, or rot. But here's the real reason they make the list: the warranty. If you break an ESE knife, and they mean break, not just scratch or dull, they will replace it. No questions asked, no receipt required, no inspection to see if you were using it wrong. They don't treat you like a liability. They treat you like someone who actually uses their gear. And when a company stands behind a product like that, it tells you they're not engineering it to fail. They're engineering it to outlast you. Number 3, the rifle that won't quit. The AR-15 market is flooded with junk. Budget brands slap mil-spec on the box, but inside you'll find MIM fire control groups that snap under stress, 4,140 barrels that lose accuracy after 2,000 rounds, and cast aluminum receivers with out-of-spec tolerances. These rifles run fine at the square range when they're clean and oiled, but put them through a carbine course in the dust, run them hard for a day without cleaning, or subject them to actual duty use, and they choke. Parts break. Extractors snap, gas keys come loose, you're left with a $600 paperweight when you needed a fighting rifle. If you want an AR-15 that qualifies as duty grade, you need to look at 2 names, Bravo Company Manufacturing, BCM, or Lewis Machine and Tool, LMT. Both companies understand the difference between a safe queen and a tool. BCM builds everything to actual mil-spec tolerances, not the marketing lie, but the real DODTDP specifications. They use properly staked gas keys, MPI-tested bolts, and chrome-lined barrels with 1159 5E barrel steel. LMT takes it even further with fully machined monolithic upper receivers and enhanced bolt carriers designed for suppressor use and high round counts. Why does it matter? Because when you're 3 magazines deep into a defensive scenario and your rifle needs to cycle the 91st round without hesitation, you don't want a gun built by the lowest bidder. You want a rifle engineered by people who've seen what happens when gear fails under stress. A BCM or LMT costs $1,200 to $2,000. That's 3 times the price of a budget AR. But the most expensive rifle you can buy is the one that jams when your life depends on it. Number 4, the revolver built like a tank. The handgun world has gone plastic fantastic. Polymer frames, striker-fired triggers, and internal safeties designed by lawyers instead of gunsmiths. Modern pistols hold 17 rounds and weigh nothing, but they're also loaded with MIM sears, weak extractor springs, and magazine disconnects that create failure points. And here's the dirty secret. Most of them have internal lock mechanisms, little keyholes in the frame that allow the gun to be disabled. It's a lawyer-mandated feature that adds complexity and another thing that can break. If you want a handgun that's built on the principle of absolute mechanical reliability, you need to go back to the wheel gun. Specifically, you need a Ruger GP100 or a Prelock Smith & Wesson 686. These are not safe queens. They're service revolvers built from investment cast stainless steel with no MIM parts, no internal locks, and no reliance on magazines or springs that can wear out. The GP100 in particular is over-engineered to the point of being indestructible. The frame is thick enough to handle a steady diet of full-power .357 Magnum rounds without battering itself apart. The lockwork is simple: a hammer, a trigger, and a hand that rotates the cylinder. If it's clean and oiled, it will run. If it's dirty and dry, it will still run. Critics will say 6 rounds isn't enough. They'll say reloads are slow. They're right. But when you're in a situation where you've burned through 6 rounds and the threat is still coming, the problem isn't your capacity, it's your shot placement. A revolver forces you to make every round count, and when you pull that trigger, you know it's going to fire. No light primer strikes, no failure to feed malfunctions, just mechanical certainty. In the SHTF scenario, that certainty is worth more than 13 extra rounds in a polymer frame. Number 5, the light that won't fail you. Weapon-mounted lights have become standard defensive gear, but most of them are built with the same cheap LED modules you'd find in a $20 Amazon flashlight. They use plastic lenses, unregulated drivers, and housings that crack under recoil. After a few hundred rounds, the bulb flickers. After 1,000 rounds, it's dead. And when your light dies in the middle of a low-light engagement, you're operating blind in your own home. There's one brand that treats weapon lights like life safety equipment, Surefire, specifically the X300 Ultra and the M600 Scout series. Surefire doesn't build lights for Instagram photos. They build lights for SWAT teams, SOF units, and people who need to identify threats at 0 dark 30 without second-guessing whether their gear will work. The X300 Ultra throws 1,000 lumens from a TIR lens that creates a wide, even hotspot with enough spill to see peripheral movement. The head is machined aluminum, not polymer. The electronics are potted in resin to survive shock. And the activation switch is designed to be operated under stress with gloves on. But here's what really separates Surefire from the knockoffs. They don't burn out. Quality Surefire light will outlast 3 or 4 budget lights, and when it finally does fail, Surefire will repair or replace it. They don't treat customers like disposable revenue. They treat them like professionals who depend on their equipment. The X300 costs $250. A Chinese clone costs $40. Over 10 years, you'll buy 6 clones and still end up with an unreliable light, or you'll buy one Surefire and never think about it again. Here's the verdict. The buy it for life philosophy in the tactical world isn't about saving money. It's about understanding that when gear fails, people die. The corporations want you to be a consumer. They want you to buy a new optic every time the battery technology changes. They want you to upgrade your rifle every time they release a new model with a Cerakote pattern. They want you dependent on their supply chain, locked into their proprietary parts, and convinced that last year's gear is obsolete. When you buy a Trijicon AC OGA, an EC knife, a BCM rifle, a GP100 revolver, or a Surefire light, you're rejecting that cycle. You're taking ownership of your survival. You're saying that you'd rather trust forged steel and proven engineering than trust marketing departments and quarterly earnings reports. This gear costs more up front. We know that. But the most dangerous piece of equipment you can own is the one that fails when you need it most. Stop buying the hype. Stop buying the polymer. Buy the steel. Buy the aluminum. Buy the tritium. And build a defensive loadout that'll still be running when everything else has turned to rust.